Konnichiwa. Nihon Cricket Podcast Yokoso. Boku no namae wa Alan desu. I think that even those who have never heard a word of Japanese before can understand that. But just in case, hello and welcome to the Japan Cricket Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Kerr, and on this show, I will speak to the people who have played a role in the shaping of cricket in Japan, both on and off the field. Well, joining me today is yet another international cricketer, a man who has been long established with Adore Cricket Club and has featured in Japan cricket for well over a decade. Mr. Shun Hashiba, thank you very much for coming on to the podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me to the podcast. I've been listening to your podcast since episode 1 and been really enjoying it. So I'm honored to be invited to the podcast.
Well, that's the spirit. That's what we like to hear. So Shun, first of all, I have to ask you about the various paraphernalia hanging in the background on your video, which no one else can see, of course, in the nature of a podcast, but I can see it. So it strikes me that you are quite the musical man.
That's correct. I do have a lot of hobbies. I built it over years and play a few guitars, and I enjoy cycling, amongst other things.
That's good to know, mate. I mean, that's always good to see guys branching out. I know Japan has a reputation for people specializing on one thing, right? It's like, no, my hobby is this and I don't do anything else. But obviously you don't fit that mold.
That's right.
Good stuff. Okay, Shun. Well, look, let's get into the first batch of questions. I'd like to find out a little bit more about yourself and your background. So why don't you start off by telling me where you were born and where you grew up?
Okay, I was born in Tokyo, grew up in Tokyo until about I was 12. So I went through the primary school in Japan.
Yeah, okay. And whereabouts in Tokyo? Relatively central, or have you always been out west where you are now?
My parents moved a lot. So I started off in central part of Tokyo, which is around Hiro. And then I gradually shifted towards west. And my primary school was in Musashi Sakai. So I went to my school from Asagaya, which is near Nakano.
Yeah, okay. And what are your earliest memories of life in the big city? What was it like as a kid at Japanese elementary school?
Well, you kind of get used to it, right? Like as a kid, you don't know anything else, like
Sure.
in rural area. So I was kind of urban, spoiled, entitled Japanese boy.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, the city life must have been pretty hectic. I always marvel at seeing the Japanese kids walking to school on their own through Tokyo, getting on trains at the age of like 5, 6. Were you one of those kids?
I was one of those kids. And my parents got me to, like swimming and English and other various classes they have to go to, and I had to go there by myself. So I was quite good with riding the bus and riding on a train at age of 5, 6.
That's mad. And do you think that gives you this strong sense of independence?
Don't know, because like as a kid, right, you just do what parents told you to do. And I wish I had a little more time on my own to discover things on my own. Just get out there and play in the park with other kids in the neighborhood.
I find it fascinating. I mean, in many countries, most countries, I'd have to say, you just wouldn't be able to do that. 5, 6-year-olds just walking the streets, often after dark or at least approaching sort of early evening time, particularly in winter when it gets dark at like 5 o'clock. To see these kids just on such busy trains. I mean, as a Westerner, it's mind blowing, really. But I think it's one of the great things about Japan, that sort of safety angle. And Chris Thurgate on the podcast interview I did with him said that safety was the best thing about being in Japan, having brought up kids here. So you're a father yourself, and we'll probably talk a bit about that later on. But have your kids grown up in a similar sort of environment and similar experience in the Tokyo lifestyle?
Well, less busy because I now live in Akishima. So it's west part of Tokyo and a lot less crowded, even less crowded like Nagoya or Osaka. So my daughter actually don't like crowds and people. So it's been good.
Right. So you said you were in Tokyo until you were 12, and my understanding is you then headed off to New Zealand.
That is correct. In my last year of primary school, my dad asked me if I was interested in going to school in New Zealand because back then the Japanese economy is quite strong, and sending kids to place like New Zealand was like really cheap. It's
Mm.
probably cheaper than going to private school in Japan.
Oh, right. So how long were you at the school for?
Went through high school there and to uni, so 10 years in total.
So you went out there on your own. You didn't go out there because your parents moved out there. They just thought you'd get a better education and wanted to give you that experience.
That is correct. We actually visited New Zealand year before just to see what it's like.
Right.
And we really like the environment there. Yeah, so I actually have a sister and she also went there with me.
Right. Okay. And where in New Zealand were you?
I'm in the more southern area
Okay.
of New Zealand. It's a province called Southland.
Mm-hmm.
And in Southland, they have the biggest national park called Fiordland. Yeah, and it's often used for movie shooting and stuff, and very spectacular with lots of fields and mountains and lake and river.
Lord of the Rings country.
That's the one. And I lived in a town called Manapori, who had like 200 people.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I took a school bus to Tiana, which is 20 kilos away from Manapori, which had 2,000 people there.
Okay.
So it was very small town, even in New Zealand standard.
Yeah. So a complete shift from what you were used to in Tokyo. I mean, how did you find that as a 12-year-old?
Oh, it's great. Like, yeah, I mean, like as a young kid, you kind of adapt quicker than adults, right?
Mm.
And being surrounded by friendly people and a great countryside with lots of outdoor activities, you just can't ask for anything more as a kid.
Yeah, right. So your English was, I guess, good enough to be able to attend school, or were you struggling a little bit to begin with?
I was struggling a lot.
Okay.
So I took like English textbook
Mm-hmm.
and a dictionary, and basically went from there. But took me like half a year to fully adapt.
So then I'm assuming that it was in New Zealand you were first introduced to cricket and rugby, I presume would have been winter and summer sports for you.
Yes and no. Being in small town, you kind of get to try everything, right?
Mm.
But my dad was really big on rugby. So I first tried rugby until I found out I was like quite small. Got smashed.
By all these Kiwis. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So I got smashed in the game and kind of I quickly gave that up. But I tried soccer, basketball, volleyball, bit of table tennis. Excelled in field sports. I represented Southland in under 14 soccer.
Okay.
Yeah, won few singles titles in table tennis age group. Yeah, went on to represent Otago in men's table tennis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was actually pretty late when I picked up cricket. So it was probably about 17 when I first played cricket. But yeah, I really love the multi-sport culture.
Your whole experience is then completely different to anyone who goes to a Japanese junior high school and high school and joins the Bukatsu system and just does that one sport. Having been through the other side of that, what do you make of it? Because you have a very different perspective from most other Japanese people who would have been in the Bukatsu system. You must be pretty happy with the fact that you got to try all those things. And do you try with your own kids to get them to try as many things as possible?
Well, yes and no, because I think playing fewer sports helps in like really excelling in one discipline. Like my daughter used to play table tennis, and she joined the table tennis club when she was 5. And junior players there play close to 30 hours a week.
Oh,
Yeah, that's pretty serious stuff. And they said, starting at age of 5 or 6, actually kind of late if you want to be like really good at table tennis. So I could see that because I could see a vast skill gap between my daughter and kids who played since they're like 3 or 4. But at the same time, multi-sports is so much more enjoyable.
Mm. Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
not just the sport experience, but it's the friendships you make and the other skills you pick up as well. Team sports, individual sports, the works, right?
absolutely. And like you only get those really, really top of the sport people from like 0.0001, like 1 in a million,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So you'd rather have millions of people who enjoy sport more till the rest of their life, I guess.
So do you think that time in New Zealand really instilled in you a love of an active outdoor lifestyle, which you might
Yeah,
not have had you stayed in Japan?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's probably the reason why I still go outside and
Go on your bike and play cricket and, you know,
yeah, that's right.
it's a good legacy to have been left with. So then what are your earliest memories of cricket?
Okay. My absolute earliest memory of cricket was watching cricket on TV
Mm-hmm.
because in my first year, I couldn't speak English. So the only TV show I enjoyed was The Simpsons. So when I finished watching the recorded episode of Simpsons, there were a man in whites playing this strange sport with bat and ball. And it turned out it was a match between Pakistan and New Zealand in New Zealand, and they were playing test there. And I tried to watch it through, but it was like, oh man,
Not a lot happening here.
and not helping. And there was one guy, I think it was Ijaz Ahmed, was batting on and on and on. He was batting for 5 hours for a century in the second innings, beating New Zealand in the end. But that was very surreal and strange experience.
Okay.
But it kind of planted a seed in my mind, the real intrigue of the sport. So that's probably why I decided to take up the sport when I was 17, because at the time, the president of the Tiana shooting club called Shane Massa was also the president of the Tiana Cricket Club. So I said to Shane, I'm keen to try out cricket. Would you let me join? And I was like, yeah, sure. Anyone's welcome. So I'm really friendly bunch. They did everything to cater me and teach me things. It was great.
Yeah, that's the Kiwi ethos, isn't it? That's what New
Yep.
Zealand's famous for. So then what did you make of it when you first started playing?
Strange.
Did you take to it relatively quickly or did you find it quite hard from the beginning?
I found it quite hard because I couldn't understand the role, and because it was very village. Like we just didn't have any formal coaches or formal structure of the junior development. So I kind of had to borrow the book from library, the cricket book from like authored by Imran Khan, how to play for defensive shot and
Yeah,
things
okay.
like that. So I found it quite hard and took me a few innings to actually score runs. But because I was playing multi-sport, I didn't have any problem building.
Mm.
So I think that kept me in the team.
Yeah, that sounds pretty typical for most sort of under 18, 17 age group teams that I was part of. You got the sporty kids who can just kind of get away with it because they're coordinated and can catch and throw, which helps. Learning the skill of batting and bowling, that comes in time.
Yeah, that's wrong. And they were kind enough to put me on the opening slot after a few matches.
Just threw you up top of the order, said, yeah, there you go, good luck.
Yeah, well, I didn't have any shots.
Yeah, fair enough. Were you playing
Yeah.
against kids your own age or were you playing adults cricket at that point?
Never all age.
So it's straight into adults, yeah.
Yeah, district, cricket. Yeah, it was great though. It was the true village stuff. So we did self umpiring and we walked when we knew we were out, and we went to pub. I didn't drink, but like we socialized, and it was good experience.
So that was something that's come up in my last interview, actually, with Kendall Kadaraki Fleming. He said that socializing after the game was where he learned so much about cricket, just listening to other people talk about the game and sort of not necessarily analyze, but just digest what's gone on. Would you agree? Was that an important part for you as well?
Well, technically not really, because like most players were pretty substandard,
Okay.
looking back. But they taught me a lot of values. Like they didn't tell you off if you got out with a stupid shot, but they did tell you off if you don't walk.
Okay. It was more about how you played the game rather than the end results.
Absolutely. If you're good, people usually travel to bigger town to play in the suburban cricket. So they kind of tell you off if you're, too good for the league. So they kind of taught me values more than anything.
Yeah, great. So then you played at university as well?
Not really. I played a bit of indoor with my flatmate. That was probably it. Like I wasn't really big into cricket by then.
Yeah, okay. So then you returned to Japan kind of at the end of your uni days. When did you get involved in Japanese cricket? And what was your experience like there?
Long story short, I searched for cricket on the internet. Back then there wasn't Google, so I Yahooed cricket in katakana, and it came up with a website, Japanese website called Pavilion End.
Okay.
Yeah, which was it's not existent now, but it was run by a Japanese guy who is obviously into English cricket. And I came to know a guy from Adore in that forum and told him, I'm going back to Japan next year. Is there any cricket played in Japan? And he said, yeah, not very big, but we do play there. And I'm from Adore, so why don't you join us?
And so the love affair with Adore began. So what kind of year would that have been? Are we talking late 90s or early 2000s?
Early 2000s, I think. I don't really know the exact date, but it was probably 2002,
Definitely.
2003, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so there wasn't a lot happening around then. The uni league existed, and I think there were some early competitions. So what was your first actual experience, and where were you playing when you first got into it?
Okay. My first practice was in the riverbank of Tama.
Okay.
And that was kind of hard because you kind of had to play on the riverbank pitch.
I've heard a bit about that.
It was pretty scary to face fast ballers there.
Uneven bounce, I think, is the kindest.
Uneven balance. Yep.
Yeah.
But my first match was against Aoyama Uni in 2-day competition. That was called J2C back then, I think. And it was played in Hasaki, which is in Ibaraki, I think.
Right.
And yeah, and one of the hotel provided the baseball ground to play cricket, and you kind of lay the artificial mat on the grass.
Yeah.
So it was very cushy,
Yeah. No bounce at all, I guess.
low and slow. And, like back then, like I didn't play much cricket in New Zealand, so wasn't really good at all, like cricket wise. But even then, like standard was pretty low, especially when a Shakaijin club is against uni club, right? And it was pretty one-sided. So playing wise, it wasn't very enjoyable, but really enjoyed the aspect of staying over. Yep, have a drink at hotel and like socialize with other teams.
When you were in New Zealand, were you playing limited overs cricket? Were you playing multi-day cricket?
Only limited overs, and there was 40 overs too.
Yeah, right. So this 2-day league in Japan, I'm fascinated by this tournament.
Yeah.
What did you make of it? I mean, I guess you'd seen cricket in New Zealand, so you knew that cricket was played over 5 days and test matches. What about the other people that were involved? Were there guys there just baffled by the multi-day side of the game? And how were those games approached by batters and bowlers?
Well, it was strange. Like 2 days, right? It's better when it's played by people with actual cricket skills, but when it's played by like first year students and like first year shagaijins and like all Japanese players, it's kind of strange to say the least. So it was more enjoyable when you're against club like Wyverns.
Yeah.
Like so it's closer to more of a proper cricket.
Similar level.
Yeah. But the mismatch was kind of interesting. And I still find it very respectful how those uni students decided to travel all the way to Hasaki, decided to pay for the travel fee, the hotel fee, just, to be 20 all out for for 2 innings and getting beaten by 10 runs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing that it was the same for them. It was more about the weekend away with their
Yep.
mates than what
Yep.
they were actually doing. And
Absolutely.
I suspect
Absolutely.
there's not a great deal of those guys who are still involved in cricket now. But I mean, there must have been a handful of decent players knocking around back then. Does anyone stand out?
Of course. Back then there were more uni students, right? I think there was like 6, 7, 8 even
Yeah, teams. Yeah.
uni teams around. So by sheer power of numbers, we had like oddities like Amigo, who still plays,
Mhm.
Shino, the former wicketkeeper,
Yeah.
and other guys who started playing when they were 19, but still very good.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. So, as far as Adore goes, how do you think the club has developed over the years? You've been involved in it for coming up to 20 years. How's it changed? How's it morphed into what it is now?
Well, we've always been centered towards providing the playing opportunities, regardless of your skill. So the guys, when they graduate, mostly goes to their home team, so to speak. Like Waseda Uni kids usually go and join Wyverns. KO usually joins Fuji Far. So we usually left with leftovers, which is still good. Um, so good. So it's probably reason why we've had so few members of the Japanese national reps. I think we only had like 3 or 4 in like 20 years history of our club, but it's good. Like I think it goes with my experience with cricket club, playing fair opportunities to everyone. But now that there are so few universities, we struggle to recruit numbers. So I think the Adore is on the crossroad of whether to continue recruiting mainly Japanese junior students or become like multinational club.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting that even Jared Shearer talked about that with the Wombats, just how there's just not that many Aussies and Kiwis in Japan anymore
Mm,
playing cricket, and so they've kind of moved away from that core base. The uni one is a tricky one in that it was struggling anyway, and
mm.
it's been hit really badly the last 2 years with COVID-19. Do you think it's a case that there's just more options now to do other things, and so cricket has kind of fallen down the wayside, or do you think there's more to it with the decline of the number of kids and the number of teams playing university cricket?
I tend to disagree with both because even with less kids around nowadays and more hobbies around, there are some sports like uni-based sports still flashes.
Mhm.
Like I'm looking at case of ultimate frisbees or lacrosse even. Like they have so many more numbers than us, even though they started in somewhere similar era and with probably similar numbers. So I think it's more of a self-governing thing. Yeah, I don't really want to bag those people who put a lot of efforts to run uni leagues, but they're self-run league. So I don't know. It's sad to say, but they probably brought it on themselves.
Mm. Yeah, it's something that we've, from a JCA perspective, have tried to be a bit more involved in over the last 4 or 5 years because we saw this coming. And I think one of the biggest issues that I've kind of identified with that uni competition is that they have this huge group of people in positions, huge committee every year, and everyone only serves 1 year. And the chairman is usually a pretty competent person. We've had some pretty good university chairmen come through over the last 4 or 5 years.
Great.
But then what tends to happen is those guys do it for a year. They put it on their CV. That looks good for them to have been on this committee. And then they're away from cricket again. And some might stick around. There are a few guys who have stuck around for a little while, but it doesn't take long before they've moved into jobs and life kind of takes over and they've gone away from cricket. And as a result, every single year, the whole committee changes. So there's no continuity. And everyone just says, well, let's just do the same as what we did last year. And I think what's happened is that they haven't evolved with the times. They haven't looked to do new things and they've just kept doing what was done back in the late 90s, if even. And as a result of that, quality of what they're producing has gone down. And where that's left them is with an outdated product and zero consistency in methods. And I think that is something that we've tried to address. Like I was talking for a couple of years about even trying to get all the ex-chairmen, or as many as you can, to form like some kind of committee so that if you've been the chairman, you stay involved for 5 years, even just on a consultant basis, and you meet with the other chairman and you talk about the things that you wanted to do. And, I don't think there's a lot of that happening. I think that's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, continuity is the big problem for a lot of uni run organization. And like as you said, like I've been umpiring the uni finals for God knows 5 years, 6 years, and they ask me same questions every year, and I report them back with same issues every year. But it's just not, passed on to the next generations, I guess. But the thing is, like, there's very little things we can do to help apart from like providing them with technical help, like running the organization. We can't do much about it. It's very self-cleansing, so to speak.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about it, I mean, we talked about this a couple of days ago, that the passion for university cricket is still very real and it still exists. And people, when they are playing representing their universities, they do really care about it.
Yep.
So there's still something there. It's just we need to channel that and try and get more people to buy into it.
Yeah, I think so. I forgot to mention it, but I think that's the one of the advantage of having single sport culture, because they put so much more into one particular sport, and they often have one finals per year, per generation. So like the emotion and the effort they put into those, one match, 3 hours, it's like quite amazing.
Yeah, and that links to what you said about the table tennis. Like starting at 5 is too
Yeah.
old. It's that. I mean, okay, there's the flip side of that is a risk of burnout by the time they're 18. But if they're in it, they're going to be very committed to it, and some people will stay committed to it forever. Whereas, as we mentioned, we have people dropping out after university very easily. It's just a hobby for 3 years or 4 years they're at university, and then they're done with it. So that is a big reason, certainly, why the JCA have looked to try and get people playing the game from younger ages, because you need that lifelong love of the sport. Otherwise, yeah, the numbers, there are too many drop-off points to be able to counteract. People need to love the game.
For my club, the members there tend to keep on playing because they're in it for the love of the game more than the love of winning.
Moving away from that, you mentioned your time with the Japan national team.
Mm-hmm.
You are the 57th person to represent the Japan men's team.
Yep.
Was that something that you had ever had your sights on when you first started playing cricket? Did you think when you were finding the sport in New Zealand, did you think, oh, I might play for Japan one day? Or was that not even on your radar?
Not even my radar. It was never my dream to play. Like I didn't, like looking back, I didn't have desire to play in high level cricket, because when I was first in Japan, I was a lot worse than many Japanese players there. Even those standards back then. And I only had opportunity to practice once a month. And that went for a few years. So
it's not a lot of practice.
No. So when I was like 20, 25, 26, when I first made the national team, like I kind of struggled there. And in my first tournament, I didn't get to play a game, which is like fair enough, totally fair enough.
So I know that your first appearances came in Samoa in 2009. And so what did you make of those experiences then, and going on those tours, and what was that like?
It was great. Although the actual training and the game was very amateur, even back then. It was really great to see great players practicing with higher intensity, and the game being played high intensity as well. Because in 2007 we had Gavin, Heath, Patrick,
Giles Jones,
Munil, Ahmed as the foreign players, and they were training really hard. Like, some of them just played for fun, but they still trained and played game really hard. And that was quite eye opener for me.
Kind of showed you what was required to be successful.
That's correct. And the teams there, like Cook Islands back then, had few former first class players in it,
Mm.
and like Papua New Guinea players from data tournaments was really really eye opener because I mean you could just tell that they were in different league just by hearing the sound of bat on ball. It
Yeah,
just
okay.
yeah it just felt like they're playing different sport.
Well, I have a scorecard. You mentioned PNG, and you did play in the game in 2009 against Papua New Guinea, which let's just say didn't last a very long time. I've got Japan bowled all out for 21 and 15 overs,
Yeah,
and Papua New Guinea knocking that off in 17 balls. So
that's correct.
I'm guessing that they were pretty decent. And I mean, I look at that team, it's not bad. It's got Chino, Rizwan, Amigo. There's a Miyagi in here. I'm going to say that's Alex Miyagi, and then yourself and Bebe Miyagi. They both played in that game. That would have been a good team. And then I'm just having a look at that tournament. The same day, and maybe you can remember whether it was before or after. The same day, Japan beat Tonga.
Yeah,
and that was a game where you played, opened the batting, you scored a few runs, 10 off 9 balls, couple of boundaries, and Japan crept home with 2 wickets to spare and 2 balls left. So quite an exciting finish at least. And you do have a win under your belt in the Japan show, which must have been quite nice.
It was nice. Like about the PNG game, let's say the time they looked sad was when we won the toss and chose batting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like the fastest I've faced, maybe they're just in different league.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your lasting memories? Do you think back about those tournaments and think that they were key to keeping you involved in cricket, or was it just a nice extra to have been part of?
I didn't aspire to be the highest, the most skilled cricket player in Japan, like really, because one, we didn't have the system, the structure to hone your skill. And two, I think I'm more of the social side. I think I love more of the social side of cricket. But it was nice. And it was really good to know the high performance side of things.
Just to see it, right?
Yeah. Just being set up. Yeah, was good.
Cool. All right. I was going to ask you around sort of the future really, and how things can develop. And I know you're a man with plenty of opinions on how Japan cricket can go in certain directions. And in terms of promotion, you're very active on Twitter and one of the rare people actually tweeting about cricket in Japanese, which is always good to see. Do you think social media is a good place to be developing an interest among fans of the game in Japan?
Well, I think so. Like, especially now in these COVID days, you could only access the information via internet. Yes, I've been active on Twitter, and I actually had like weblog back in 2005, 6. Adora used to run their own website as well as cricket news site that was updated in Japanese. So it's always in me to text out those news and thoughts of mine. And I'm actually glad that you respond to some of my tweets.
I try and keep an eye on stuff, and you're one of the more active players that I follow. And when it comes to Twitter, and Twitter is a place where people make statements and don't always know the full story. And from a administrator's point of view, if people don't know the full story and are making statements or have opinions based on half truths, then I want to try and put that right.
Yeah.
And that's on us to make sure that people know the full story. As the association, we want to make sure that people do know the reasons behind whatever situation happens. So, take the under-19 World Cup, for example. That's been one that I've been talking about plenty recently. I want people to know that myself and Miyagi-san have spent 11 months fighting that battle to try and get Japan into the tournament, ultimately unsuccessfully, but we did everything possible, including engaging a Tokyo law firm to look into the legality of it. And we want people to know that, because we don't want people to think that we just sat back and did nothing. We went out to fight for our players. And, there's all sorts of things. We could go into millions of different examples about tournament formats or, ground access during COVID and stuff like that. There's always something, but we are trying very hard to be as open an organization as we can. And so when people are out there having conversations, it's up to us to join in and make sure that they're informed conversations.
Like, so in ideal world, everything's on website and like people can access and know what they want to know. But like, it takes a lot of effort and time and a lot of resources, right?
And
especially when JCA's multi national lingual organization, you have to, translate everything too, right? So
that is the biggest challenge. That is the biggest challenge, getting everything out in both languages. But, yes, it's hard, but that's not an excuse not to do it. I think for us, a lot of the time, we think we know what people want to know, but we can't be perfect. We don't necessarily know what people want to know. We don't necessarily know what questions people are asking. And so we need people to talk to us and give us their opinions and guide us in the information we put out, because without knowing what people want to know, we can't tell them. So, that's why, by hopefully having something like this podcast helps inform people, but also just making people aware that we're happy to be spoken to and to be approached. We want to hear what people's opinions are. So on that note, one of the questions I had written down was, if you could make one change to the cricketing structure in Japan as it is right now, what would it be?
Oh, that's hard. There's no simple answer to that, right?
Absolutely not.
I mean, okay, provided there's no limited resources and other issues, I'll make it more accessible to more people. And playing wise, probably better structure for all levels. Currently, we are seeing a lot of mismatched games played, like in my Japan Cup division, and even in JCL Division 3, you see a lot of mismatches. That kind of put people off.
Yeah, it is hard. We kind of hope that, Division 3 is only, 3 years old. We kind of hope that adding a third division would help reduce that, but that doesn't seem to have done. And likewise, in a lot of the Japan Cup regions now, there's enough teams to have 2 divisions, and you can still win the lower division and go into a playoff to make Japan Cup finals. So everybody starts the season with an open opportunity to make finals. So no, it's not closed off. It's not like you can't make it. But I think it takes time. You need more players to be able to get that. And there's, in any sport, there's going to be mismatches. But we do want to try and reduce those as much as possible.
So one structural change I'd make would be to have Japan Cup team, same as JCL team. Like, if you're in one particular JCL team, you can only play for that team in Japan Cup League.
So that's something that we were trying to do with the JCL T20.
I saw that. Like I see right through. I thought that was the whole point.
But the main point of that was to get people, and hopefully this will still continue next year. It just hasn't been able to get off the ground this year because of COVID and the amount of cancellations and stuff. But the idea is to get more people playing T20 for their JCL club, because we're trying to build strong clubs. It's been the whole purpose of the JCL. And then we would hope that if they're getting their T20 fix there, they won't necessarily need to play in the Japan Cup, which is supposed to be more of a introductory tournament, more of an opportunity for new players to have their first experience in cricket. That's why the Japan Cup is supposed to be just one match a month. It's only 3 hours. It's not a huge time commitment. But the reality is, at the moment, it's still the primary T20 comp, so everybody wants to win it. Whereas if we can make the JCL T20 that primary T20 competition, it will hopefully drive more people to want to win that. And sure, once you get to finals, Japan Cup finals, everyone's going to want to win that. But the round robin stages, we kind of want it to be less intense if we can.
That's kind of hard, isn't it? Like,
it is
at
hard.
The moment, you have those serious club who would recruit anyone to win a game, and this club who have like their closest mates to get together, have fun. But that kind of takes away the playing numbers from the JCL club. So it's kind of, I don't know, not really working, but I know it's already established and with a, a few years history of the national finals. So, I get it. I get that it's really hard to change the structure now.
Yeah, we just want strong clubs rather than individual teams.
Mm.
So there's always tweaks that can be made. Anyway, we're getting a little bit tight on time, so I'm going to just rush through my two last sets of questions, which I'm sure you've heard me ask for most people. So we'll start with the cricket-specific questions. Can you tell me the best player you've played with or against in Japan?
Or outside
Or outside if you've played against anyone particularly good in your time in New Zealand.
Okay. Outside. That would be Richard Headley. Sir, Richard Headley.
Okay. Played against with or against?
With actually, because it was charity match held in Tiano. I was I was in Richard Headley's team, and he was, I think, like 4 or 5 years after his retirement, but
Still pretty good.
Still pretty skillful with the ball, I would say. He was bowling with 3 or 4 paces off, but still getting those provincial state players out left, right, and center. So it's good. Yeah, in Japan, I'll say amigo if it's Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Okay, best thing you've ever learned from a coach?
Have fun.
Good. Say no more.
Yeah. The first national coach for me was Richard
Laidler.
Laidler from What Speaks Gunma, and it was all about fun, but playing hard, but also have fun.
Great.
I'm all about that.
Is there any particularly amusing, entertaining, funny things that you've seen on the cricket field?
So many. Man. Like in Japan, you see people throwing up outside the ground in middle of the game because they drank too much the previous day after day one of the J2C Cup.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're enjoying the social side of it too much.
That's one.
What's your favorite format of cricket?
For same reason, 2 days.
Yeah. Okay.
Cricket wise, it's not so much, but yeah. Favorite format.
Bring it back.
Yeah. And I also enjoy watching test the most too. So.
Yeah, me too. Any particular outstanding teammates? Who's your favorite person to play with?
In Adore, there's a guy called Shin-chan who keeps for my club. Probably the funniest guy on the ground. You know those crowns you get in your club. Yeah, he's one of them.
What's your favorite place to play cricket? Any specific grounds that you particularly enjoyed?
Okay, you can't go past Fuji, the best ground, like scenery wise.
And have you got any particular places where you've watched the game of cricket that you love?
Dunedin.
Yeah, okay.
Dunedin. They play international cricket match in the rugby ground. So when I was uni student, the ground was called Carisbrook.
Yes.
Which is the most hostile ground in New Zealand because Dunedin. Yep. And because Dunedin is the student town, so the spectators, they are mostly student. And when I watched a game one day between Australia and New Zealand, one of the bowler, Brett Lee, for the bouncer to Adam Perori, who was the wicketkeeper batsman for New Zealand at the time. And the ball dislodged Perori's helmet, which went on to hit the wicket, was given out. And we know that's out now, but like students, they don't really care about rules. So they threw everything they had in their hand into the ground. The game stopped for like 40 minutes. Oh, it was a great experience.
Okay. Can you name one innings or bowling performance played by someone else that you wish you could have played yourself?
Oh, definitely. World Cup finals, 1996 or 7. I was won by Sri Lanka. The final between Sri Lanka and Australia. And great Arvinder De Silva, 80th century. That was the best innings I've seen.
Yeah,
like
phenomenal.
Yeah, very steely innings, determined.
Okay, and then on to Japan specific stuff. So what is your favorite thing about Japan?
As Chris said, safety. I think I'm quite comfortable my daughter walking around at night.
Mm.
So love it.
Is there any one place a visitor must go to?
I'll say SICG.
Yeah, that's the spirit. Good on you.
Yeah, especially the tea room. Like you invite any cricket guy to SICG and a tea room, they'll say, cricket is alive and well in Japan.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like you're in Japan when you're sat on the deck having a beer, watching the game. That's for sure.
That's all.
Favorite food?
Favorite food, yakiniku.
Yeah, me too. It's been ages since I had yakiniku. Any food that is particularly terrible that you've had in Japan?
In Japan, I'm usually happy with everything. Probably like watermelon. Yeah, not because of taste.
That is not an answer I was expecting.
Well, just because you have to poke out all those seeds and stuff, it kind of annoys me. Like I'm too old with that,
Labor intensive fruit.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, now as a Japanese national, this question might be slightly different for you. Your favorite Japanese word or phrase and its meaning?
お疲れ様. Job well done.
Job well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, every day. Yeah, I mean, I like hardworking people and them congratulating each other. That's the fun. So I love that word.
So before I let you go, Shun, we talked about promotion earlier on, and I understand that you are following in my footsteps and setting up your own podcasts. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I enjoyed your show so much, so that I've decided to make one of my own.
Like a Japanese version?
Yes, in Japanese version, it's actually more of our own. It will be made by Takuro Agiara and me. It'll be in Japanese, talking about cricket in general and cricket in Japan. So that's due to come out on 15th of October, which is pretty soon, and probably before your episode comes out.
How will people find it? Where will it be?
It will be in the usual place.
Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. What should people search for?
Cricket Chanomi Banashi.
Cricket
Which-
Banashi.
Yeah, which is like talk while you're drinking tea.
Fantastic. I will link to it in the show notes for those who've made it this far in the episode.
Thank you.
Perfect. Shun, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for all your hard work and continued efforts with your cricket club, and good luck with continuing with the hard work with Adelaide. I know it's a big job, but we appreciate all the work you're doing down there, and long may it continue. Thanks for joining. I hope it's been enjoyable for you, and I'm sure I will see you at the ground again soon.
Thank you.
That concludes this episode of the Japan Cricket Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening, and if you really enjoyed listening, then I would be forever grateful if you could rate and review the show on whatever platform you get your podcasts. It would just help others to find the show and have the added bonus of making me feel a little bit better about myself. Until next time, arigatou gozaimashita.